Hello everyone, I'm back with some more TeruShouEnnoTana. Yes, you will have to survive one more, because it's important for the story. I'm actually skipping one that was also important for the story, but I will apparently have to wait with it, because you all keep pestering me about not writing Polyships right. Fine, we are skipping. Also, this is Enno focus, despite how it may seem from the characters. So I hope you'll at least pay attention to it when you want something from the other characters. More about this whole thing in outro. Now let's get to the story. We have a special guest coming this time around, so let's go. Special thanks to my lovely patrons and all of you who subscribe and watch these videos. You are keeping this channel alive and going. Thank you very much, and I hope you will enjoy. It had been so long since Enoshita went to see a game in person that he completely forgot just how noisy the crowd could be at times. Though he couldn't complain, finding himself also joining in the chorus of voices occasionally, specifically in the moments when Dasha was the one who got the point. He had a pretty premium seat too, sitting in the front row of the bleachers exactly on the line of the net, enjoying a clear view of everything happening on the court. And was there a lot to look at. The Spirits were killing it on the court, showing exactly why they were the runner-ups this season, with their new libero and middle blocker unsealing the destructive power of their starting 7, and Enoshita couldn't be happier about that. And on top of that, seeing Dasha in full game mode was something he couldn't get enough of. The sheer focus behind the green eyes never ceased to send excited shivers down his spine, and the subtle yet absolute joy flashing across his face whenever he scored a point gave him heart flutters. This was Dasha how he loved to see him, relaxed, smiling, enjoying what he was doing without a single worry on his mind. Maybe with time we'll get their outside games too. Hopefully. He shook his head, chasing the gloomy thoughts away. He was there to support his boyfriend, not dwell on the nasty things. Grinning from ear to ear, he returned the shy wave Dasha gave him when the teams changed halves, and then his attention was fully back on the game and cheering as loudly as he could, without a smidge of care for the occasional raised eyebrow around him. That was amazing, honestly. You did so well out there today. He chuckled when, from the corner of his eye, he spotted Dasha trying to hide his reddening cheeks into the folds of his scarf, creating one of the most adorable sights he knew. Unable to help himself, he gently caressed the visible part of Dasha's cheek before entwining their gloved fingers together. I'm proud of you, you know? A soft whine muffled by the scarf escaped Dasha's mouth. You are exaggerating. Not at all. I know how much work you put into volleyball, so seeing you do so well, I can't be anything but proud. Which doesn't mean I'm not when you lose, of course. I'm just happy to see you enjoying yourself. Dasha paused for a split second, before the tiny lines around his eyes told Enoshita he was smiling. Thank you. You have no idea how much that means to me. Instead of an answer, Enoshita squeezed his hand a bit tighter, regretting it was so cold he couldn't kiss him without having to unwrap him from his little scarf nest. He knew how much praise meant to Dasha, even though he had trouble accepting it, which was exactly why he never stayed silent when something praiseworthy happened. Every little boost of self-esteem was good. So, wanna stop for lunch somewhere? As a reward for a good game. I don't think you want to walk around much today, right? As if he caught it, Dasha shivered despite the several layers of clothes he was wearing, perhaps instinctively leaning more to Enoshita's side. Enoshita hummed and took off his own scarf to wrap it around Dashio's neck, inwardly cursing the weather that decided to ruin their plans for a walk by clasping the city in record low temperatures. You'll be cold. Smiling, Enoshita finished binding the scarf and gently bumped their foreheads together. I won't, don't worry. Just don't choose some faraway place and I'll be good. Then, how about the ramen place we usually go around? I heard it's pretty good. Sounds good to me. Come on, let's go before you turn into an icicle. He sped up a bit for Dashio's sake and led the way to a small but cozy restaurant they used to frequent with Terushima and Tanaka when they first moved into their current home. Not much had changed in the place as far as Enoshita could tell, and so he immediately headed to the tables furthest away from the door, knowing Dashio would want to have his back to the wall. Dashio gave him a little grateful nod before he started to unwrap himself out of the numerous layers, finally giving Enoshita a clear view of his cold, flushed face again. He paused almost immediately, however, when he noticed Dashio rubbing his jaw, his face scrunched in obvious discomfort. His physician instinct activated. He reached out to gently massage the muscles around his jawline, taking note of the veins around his eyes the moment he touched him. Hurts? Yeah, a little bit. Did you get hit during the match? Or after? I haven't seen any collision during the game. No, it's an old thing. He chuckled sheepishly, obviously still in some pain. I guess it's because of the weather change. Some old pains call for attention. Oh, of course. Sorry, I didn't know. It's alright. It doesn't hurt that much. I'm used to it by now. He smiled, but Enoshita wasn't one to be fooled by that. But before he could start sending all the curses he knew towards the prison, a somewhat amused voice sounded next to him. I see nothing changes with you, Suguru. Always wrapped in 10 layers once it gets a little cold. Dashio startled, taking a step back, and Enoshita's guard showed up as he turned to face the stranger. The man was just a bit taller than him, but obviously built much stronger, with bleached hair and a smile Enoshita could call soft curling his lips, while his eyes stayed fixed on Dashio. Then, to Enoshita's shock, Dashio relaxed, a smile of his own appearing on his face. Kazuma, hi! I'm so sorry, I didn't notice you. The man chuckled, the warm sound dulling the edge of Enoshita's guard. However, with that, a different, much sharper blade stung in his chest, and only intensified upon realizing the two were on a first-name basis, his teeth clenching when he noticed just how excited Dashio suddenly looked. Who are you, and how dare you? Back off, this is our date. It's okay, no offense taken. You had too much work with not freezing, eh? Not really, I just... Would you introduce us, Suguru? He almost flinched at his own tone, the words coming out much harsher than he intended. Guilt jabbed into his ribs when he spotted the brief flash of panic in Dashio's eyes. Oh, yes, sorry. Chika, this is Kazuma. I've told you about him before. He and Mika helped me a lot when I got out of the hospital. Enoshita froze, more guilt creeping up his back. After... Yeah. Kazuma, this is... Enoshita, if I'm not mistaken. Despite the way Enoshita acted, the man flashed him the same warm smile as to Dashio before, extending his hand towards him. Kazuma Numai, nice to finally meet you face to face. Enoshita cringed inwardly as he hurried to shake the man's hand, mentally kicking himself for acting like an emotional teenager the moment someone as much as smiled at his boyfriend. He pushed the green-eyed beast back into the depths of his soul, giving Dasho a quick apologetic glance. The pleasure is all mine. I didn't know you were aware of me. Of course I am. Suguru talks about you a lot. About all three of his partners. Oh really? Dasho threw Numai a glare, but since his face was the color of a ripe tomato now, the significance was much lessened. You don't have to out me like this. Why not? I think it's great. Even though it's giving me diabetes sometimes. Enoshita chuckled, the last bits of tension leaving his body. He felt stupid for the jealousy getting the better of him, especially since all it took was to hear a name to realize why the two were so friendly with each other. But fortunately, it didn't seem like Numai minded. And Dasha all but glowed with happiness over talking with his friend, looking a bit like an excited puppy, the sight melting Enoshita's heart. Alright, well, I won't impose further. I'm sure you came here to enjoy time spent together. I'm sorry I ambushed you like this, but I couldn't help but at least say hello. He gently patted Dasha's shoulder. The same soft smile settled on his lips. It was nice seeing you again, Suguru. Dasha's shoulders slumped a bit, some of the glow disappearing from his face despite the fact he was still smiling back. Yeah, same to you. Wait, it's fine, you don't have to leave. We have a whole day, it's not a problem if you want to catch up a bit. Both men paused. Are you sure you don't mind? You said you want to make this a date, it's fine if... He fell silent when Enoshita caressed his cheek. 100%. That is, if you don't mind me listening to your conversation. No, of course not. It's not like we would be discussing any secrets. They settled by the table in the very corner, letting Dasha take the chair by the wall while Enoshita took the place next to him, gently squeezing his hand under the table as a silent apology for his earlier behavior. Judging by the soft smile he got in return, he could rest easy, even though he didn't deserve the forgiveness. Shame on you, Chikara. First you almost chased Suguru away because you're jealous of him, and now you almost ruined his day because you're jealous of his friend. Great. Though Numai wasn't just any friend to Suguru from what he understood, which, however, changed nothing about the fact he was acting like a possessive fool sometimes. The least he could do to expiate for that was to give them a bit of time to chat. And so he let the two talk without interjecting much, but listened intently to everything being said, purely out of curiosity. He knew most events on Dasha's side, but Numai was a bit of a mystery to him still. Sure, Dasha mentioned him a few times, but nothing too detailed. Still working at the station? To that, Numai grinned proudly. Yep, I actually got promoted to captain last week. I'm in charge of the guys on the site now, and pretty much second in command after our chief. That's amazing, congratulations. What's your job, if I may ask? I'm a firefighter. I had a short week, so I thought I would go out and celebrate the promotion a bit before Koji comes back from work. Pity he wasn't free today. I'm sure he would be glad to see you too. It's been a while. Over a year. That got Enoshita's attention. Over a year? Maybe that's why he was so rattled during our first date. Because he didn't have anyone except his sister to lean on for support with a new situation. But they seem to be in contact at least over the phone since Numai knows about us. And Mika is also around, though she's probably busy at the hospital. Though in that case, he's much braver than we gave him credit for when he went on that date with us. And we had no idea. He was snapped out of his thoughts by Dasho tapping on his arm, motioning to the bathrooms. He followed him with his gaze until the door closed behind him, sending a quick prayer to the gods so nothing bad happened. He seems to be thriving with you. I haven't seen him this relaxed for years. Smiling, he turned back to Numai, who was watching him with a curious but friendly gaze. We are doing what we can to make sure he feels safe. I know. I have to thank you. For what? For taking care of him. He tapped his fingers into the table, uncertainty flashing over his face. I'm not going to lie, I was worried about him when he told me he was getting into a new relationship, especially into a polyamory with 3 other guys since, after that whole thing went down. Don't take me wrong, it's nothing against you, and obviously I want Suguru to be happy, but getting away from one guy proved to be difficult enough already. But it seems like he hit a jackpot with you 3, and I'm really happy about that. He deserves all the care in the world. He does. Though I should thank you too, for supporting him the way you did. Shaking his head, Numai leaned back in the chair, his eyes briefly straying to the door Dasho disappeared in. No need for thanks. I would do that for any of my close friends. And Suguru is a special case even for me. I see. Not in the way that there has ever been something between us. That's not the case. Oh no, I gathered as such. Don't worry. No jealousy on my side. Not anymore, at least. Numai visibly relaxed. That's a relief. I would hate if I caused some distrust or misunderstanding between you. But sorry to pry, but did they manage to deal with the issue between him and Tanaka, I believe? We haven't talked in a while, so I'm not up to speed, and I didn't want to ask him in case it went south. Oh, that. He quickly summed up what he knew about the situation between his boyfriends, answering a few more questions even when Dasho returned, and before he realized it, their ramen was finished, and Numai was bidding them farewell. And despite Dasho looking genuinely saddened they had to part ways, Enoshita could tell how happy the unexpected, albeit short meeting made him. More pleasant surprises like this, please. He's really protective of you. Dasho paused mid-step, glancing at him uncertainly before his face softened. Oh yeah, he was like that in high school too. I don't know why or how it started anymore, but it was nice being cared for. I guess he's the protective type. Kaguri used to have such an obvious crush on him back in the day too. It was adorable. His smile fell as he let out a deep sigh. Maybe that's why he ended up burning himself so much. Guys like Kazuma are hard to find. He seems like one of a kind. No wonder he chose to rescue people. He tilted his head, curiosity taking over his mind. What about you? You mean me having a crush on him? No. I don't think I've ever thought of him as anything else than a friend. Maybe more like a brother. Besides, he only ever had eyes for Hiro, even back then. When they got together, a third of the school was crying. I can imagine. He gently bumped their shoulders together. Did you have a fan club too? I'm not sure. I didn't really care about that when I was with Mika-chan, and Later. He opened and closed his mouth a few times without a single word coming out, the sudden surge of distress almost materializing in the air. Enoshita understood and squeezed his hand, tugging him a bit closer to his side. I'm sorry, I didn't want to remind you of that. I know, it just occurred to me how different everything could have been if Mika and I stayed together for just a week longer. Or even a day. I wouldn't go to that bar that night and maybe never met him. Oh no, I'm sorry. Shaking his head, Dacio let out a strangled chuckle, obviously trying his hardest to compose himself. Well, looking at the silver lining, I met you, so I guess it's not that bad in the end. A pained smile curled his lips, so forced it cracked Enoshita's heart. He pulled him into a hug, feeling him sag into his arms as he rubbed his back. Don't say that. What happened to you was horrible, and the fact that we met doesn't make it any better. I'm glad we did, don't take me wrong, but I would much rather if you didn't have to go through all that. The soft sniffing by his ear pushed the invisible needles deeper into Enoshita's chest, restricting his breathing like a pair of iron tongues. He didn't stop rubbing Dacio's back, holding him as close as physically possible without a care for the surrounding world. The only thing that mattered at that moment was the man in his arms, his comfort and safety. And he was going to give him both. You know what? Let's take advantage of the pre-Valentine's Day sales and get some chocolate. What do you think? I bet after all those nightmares you had recently, your stash needs to recover. Dacio let out a short, wet laugh, burying his face more into Enoshita's shoulder. Sounds like a plan. I'm so glad I have you. All of you. You are my safe haven, and much more than that. To say Enoshita was shocked hearing that would be an understatement. He bit hard on his lip, trying not to let his emotions take over and squish his boyfriend to death. Oh, how much would he sacrifice to be able to kiss Dacio right now? We are glad too. We love you, remember that, okay? Whenever you struggle, remember we are here for you. Always. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Now to the thing I was talking about before. To people complaining about this storyline being Dacio-centered, yes, that's how it is written, because it's his story. That's the point of this entire storyline. It's his story. I'm also writing only one storyline, because 2 years on YouTube and experience told me that half of you can barely pay attention to one line, let alone 3 or 4 if I add a storyline for each character in the Polyship. But okay, you keep asking me for Terushima and Tanaka angst? Fine, I can do that. But keep in mind what happened the last time you demanded angst and I was getting upset about that. That's all I have to say to this whole thing, honestly. I'm not going to get back to it and take whatever you want from this. My apologies to those of you who wanted to know how the Dacia storyline is going to go forward. It's coming to a screeching halt, at least for a while. If you have any requests or ideas, the request form is linked in the video description. See you next time.